right, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the 4050 Social Club. We always talk about the different things that we may want to do and our pre-production, all of that kind of thing over the course of the week. And I had thrown something in there a little bit. I'm big into sport for those that don't know, and I'm sure we're going to get into that at some other points, but big into sport and this whole Stephen A versus LeBron thing that was brewing a couple of weeks ago. So I put it on as something we could talk about. Like, this could be a hot topic. But we were also thinking that it started to fizzle out. And then all of a sudden, within the last 24 hours, LeBron goes on, Pat McAfee has something to say, and then Stephen A wants to clap back, all of this stuff. So we're just going to try to take a look at that today. Like, what do you think? LeBron, Stephen A, where does it all go at this point? One of the things that I think comes to mind for us is LeBron, think about it. If you're this man, as great as he might be, and I will say, a Chicagoan, I am definitely more Jordan is my GOAT than LeBron is a GOAT, period. But that aside, that man is brilliant. He go out there, score 40 on a night. He's going to come in the next day, look at talk radio, sports radio, maybe looking at First Take, and he knows because of the way Stephen A sees him, he's going to be like, yeah, but he's not Kobe. He's not Jordan. So here we are today to kind of talk this whole thing through. Let's see where it goes.
Welcome to the 4050 Social Club. We are so excited to have you join us today as we talk about the important topics of helping you transition through the ages of 40 to 50. Black men, if you're out there, if you need a resource or reference point to share some time with myself, CJ, and Quest, as we take you on different journeys and stories and give you our perspective on how to navigate through the most important years of your life, ranging from relationship to faith to finance to entrepreneurship to corporate America. You name it, we got you. Come join us, Black men, as we talk about some of the most pressing topics you'll want to talk about as you transition between the ages of 40-50. 4050 Social Club. Let's check out this next topic today. Let's go, y'all.
Job to not only protect my damn household, but protect the players.
LeBron James is firing back at ESPN's Stephen A. Smith after their courtside showdown. LeBron scolded Smith at the Lakers game March 6th after recent comments about his son Bronny's performance.
I'm saying we all see what's happening with your son right now. It's kind of hard to watch.
Yeah, so I can't help but think about, one, we got two black men going at each other. So that's one dilemma in this whole thing. And I think if we think about culturally, we congratulate each other, we pick each other up, we celebrate, but then it's always this yeah, but type situation. Just like you was talking about, LeBron may score 40 one night, and then we talk about, yeah, he did all these great things. He broke this record tonight, and whatever case may be, he rolled off in a Lambo, but he ain't Jordan or he ain't Kobe. And we like, dang, this dude is doing some supernatural stuff that hardly any of us could possibly imagine doing. And we still got the nerve and the gall and the audacity to throw a butt in there. I just don't understand. Like, for real, like, when does butt not matter anymore? And so I just get caught up in that.
I feel, Jay, that when we were young, we used to go out with our friends. We used to be dribbling that basketball down the court. And what would we say? Yeah, I'm gonna hit the shot like Scotty. And what was the other comment? Yeah, but he ain't no Jordan.
Yeah. That's my favorite all-time player too. So,
Oh,
yeah,
man. So,
yeah.
you know what I'm saying? So it always used to be a thing. I think majority of it has to possibly stem from competition, right? We are very competitive individuals, and a lot of times we like to butt people against each other. When we look at our culture, we look at that in a lot of things that we have glorified, right? This whole situation of Mike Tyson and Evander Holyfield, right? Who's the greatest in boxing, right? When we're talking about Tyson, or is it Sugar Shane? Or is it, what's my man, Floyd Mayweather? Who is it? Like, we're always putting people against each other and kind of like saying, yeah, but this ain't this person, or yeah, but that ain't that person. And I can see in some ways where it starts out being a competitive situation. then it matures for some of us, I feel, and that's where it might get into a little bit of a strange piece. And what I mean by that is that yeah but could be fueled by some pretty I think negative energy as well, and it could be
Yeah.
more of a situation where a person is really hating, to be honest. They're taking the whole situation where they ain't getting paid by any of these people.
Yeah.
Who they getting paid by? They saying to you, yeah, but, because they taking it personal that you talking about that person. I mean, think about all these people out
Yeah.
here throwing shit at the TV screen on Super Bowl Sunday and all of this because their player has not performed to their greatest, their greatest, right?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? They
Yeah.
taking it out on the people in their home and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It got super personal for them. And I feel like
Yeah.
sometimes that's where you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I can't tell you to your face that I don't think your job is worth a dime. But when we start talking about these games, and when we start talking about who's better in what facet, I may take a jab at you by talking about this scenario. And it happens
Yeah.
like that. Don't you see that?
Yeah. Yeah.
No, I,
Sure.
Haven't you
I
seen that
got,
before?
I got it makes me think about something too, how it's not just applicable to sports.
Yes.
Like, we live in the yeah, but culture. Like,
Mhm.
I think about, you go to your job, you get a performance appraisal at the end of the year, and they kind of like give you this crap sandwich. You know what I mean? Where it's like, you did all these great things, but
Right.
or like, females may be talking to their homegirls or whatever, talking about their dude or whatever relationship they in, praising the dude, but it's always a but at the end of it.
Wow. Wow.
You know what I'm
Wow.
saying?
Man,
So it's
dude.
like, we live in this binary of like, but, and why do our butts have to get in the way? Like, why can't
I
it
don't
just
know.
be, we celebrate these people and all the great things that they're doing and not
Yeah.
even think about the butts,
Wow.
So I think
That's
about
a
that,
lot.
man.
That's a lot.
I think about the butts a lot though. Just other butts, not the
I
ones we
like
talking about right
big
here.
butts and I cannot lie.
Oh my gosh.
It's Sir Mix a
Well,
lot.
so anyway, though, I think y'all are you're starting to hit at something that just started to ring true for me in a different kind of way when you were talking about when you start talking about relationships and how women may be in conversation with their girls and they're like, oh, you got
Yeah.
such a good dude, and she's like, yeah, but where that took me, which was a little bit different from what we're talking about right now, but I think it's all applicable to this. There's this
Yeah.
conference that I go to every year, the People of Color Conference, run by the National Association of Independent Schools. And a few years ago, they had Dr. Joy DeGruy, and she's
Yes.
written a book, yeah, Post Traumatic Slave Syndrome. And
Yes.
I went and
Great
watched
book.
her talk about, yeah, the book is great too, but I went and watched her talk about it. And I got so enthralled as I was listening to her, because what she talked about, she was talking about like in our community, in the Black community, how we've been raised in a way to kind of tamp things down. And she was
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
relating it
Yeah.
to what it meant on the plantation. If you were a parent and you got a child, be it male or female, who's starting to do their thing and showing themselves to be effective in the work they're doing, that brought with it a spotlight of the folks who were running the plantation where they're like, ooh, I'm gonna take this kid over here and become a part of what we do.
Yeah.
And that parents back then were like, oh, where they're like, oh, little such and such is starting to get so great or get so big or do so whatever. And they're like, oh yeah, but but he's stupid, but he's this, but he's that. And that was a way of them trying to shield their children from being taken. You multiply that out over the years,
Wow.
like I do think that probably has a lot to do with it. And so where my mind went, Jamie, when you were talking, was the way that I know I talk sometimes about my own girls. Like my girls, my two daughters are amazing in
Yeah.
every way that I can imagine. Like I can't imagine having had better kids for sure. But I know that when people say anything about my girls, they're like, oh, look at what they've done, where they go to school. This was playing college volleyball. This was in law school, like all those things. And they talk about these accomplishments. And my first impulse is to be like, yeah, but, like, yeah, I know that sounds all well and good, but, I know the real kid. I don't know where that comes from. And it's something ever since I went to that conference and saw that, I've
Mm.
really tried to be different from that. Because what it was saying was she was talking about how you compare a black parent with a non-black parent, and she was specifically saying white, but at one point she just said non-black at a PTA meeting.
Hmm.
And the parent of the black kid and the parent of the white kid are sitting there talking to one another. The white parent asked the black parent, like, oh, I've been seeing your kid, seems to be doing so many things. What do you think? And the parent is like, oh yeah, I know what you see, but da 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 da. And then that same parent will ask the white parent, well, what about little Johnny? What do you think? And that parent will then go on and on about how great little Johnny is, like in a way that really affirms and builds up in a
Yeah.
way that we haven't felt that same freedom to do. So, like, starting to break some of that generational thing for us, it's got to be a conscious thing, something we're really conscious about.
Yeah.
Joy,
Yeah.
Joy the Grew, Joy the Grew. The angles, that's a whole nother segment for us to go off of, because that book and just how her and others, how they think, the ideology that's behind it, that we don't see in a system that we all are in. I'm gonna leave that there. But just to go back to what you were saying just a moment ago, like, that actually is pretty riveting to think that there was a system like that in place. Maybe no one really knew that that's what it was, but you're telling me that on a plantation, I'm not trying to get little Johnny taken. So hey, no, little Johnny ain't doing all that,
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
right? Think
Yeah.
about how little Johnny would feel,
Yeah. Wow.
right?
Right.
Think about
I
Exactly.
little
can't
Johnny.
help. I can't help
I
but
know.
think about though. I want to make sure I don't lose. I can't help but think about LeBron is doing with his child
Mm.
what that white parent is doing with theirs.
Right. Right.
He's
Sure,
like, so
exactly.
what? My boy is better than most of y'all cats in the league. You know what I mean? Like he gonna kill it and all these other things, and everybody like, huh?
Yeah. Yeah.
So why is he being treated differently then in this scenario
Yeah.
versus what you just shared, CJ, about
Yeah.
the white
Mm,
parent that's
mm.
at the PTA meeting,
Yeah.
and that's
Yeah.
something that we should embrace. Like
Yeah. I think some of it
LeBron
is
is
envy.
doing,
Like, I think there are a lot of reasons for it, but I would say some of it, I think, is envy. Like, it's envy of the position that LeBron finds himself in. He is in a position where he can pull strings and make things happen for his kids in ways that a lot of us would probably like to do. Whether or not we would do it if we had the same power is irrelevant. He's got it, and I think there's some people who are really envious of what he's been able to do. He's been able to put himself into a place where he can perform in ways that most of us don't feel we can. Now, whether or not we can is a whole nother thing. I think we've convinced ourselves, because of the way we've been brought through this, to believe we can't do it. And that's what I want us to kind of like help break if we can. But he's in that position. And it's a position that a lot of people don't understand because they're not in it. I don't understand it. Been able to do some things for my kids for sure, but not to that degree. But I think some of it is envy. People wish that they had that and they don't know how to name it and they don't want to own their own envy. And so it comes out in this way that they're hating on him.
It's that perspective that you have on it, I understand that. I feel that it also is something that we have to continue to even identify, even if it's not worth talking about, and that is the orchestration.
Mm, right,
Like,
right.
I am gonna put that word out there. It may sound a little
he
Stephen
said,
A. I don't know,
orchestration.
I don't know what anyone else feels. It may feel a little it's Stephen A to you, but don't sleep on it because it's real. So you gonna tell me that other teams didn't want Bronny? You
Right.
gonna tell me that Bronny honestly should have been out of USC and now playing in it? I'm just
Yeah.
saying, I get that, we're going off of merit and we're going off of things like that, but we going off a little bit more than merit.
Mm, mm,
There's
For
some
sure. For sure.
conversation. There's
For
some,
sure.
so for the person who in some ways is possibly thinking, you know, like, hey, my child has gone through this, and this. My child is 23 points a game in college. You know what I'm saying? He's 7 rebounds in college, and that's not what Bronny was doing. Like, I understand it. And it's a system that still, in some ways, a lot of people use. They just don't look like us. So now
Yeah.
that someone looking like us, to the point that we made before,
mhm.
in some ways using the same system, is that right or wrong?
Yeah. Yeah.
Do we even have to think about a right or wrong here?
Mm-hmm.
Well, the system is called privilege.
Yeah.
And I think the system is called privilege. Right?
Yeah.
LeBron happens to have enough money where he don't have to worry about the butt.
Mm.
I feel like the butt is in response to privilege not being available.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so
Yeah.
we default to that as black humans because we're like, damn, yeah, my child is dope, but it may not happen for him or her for reasons that we're not even going to name. You know, when I feel like it comes down to that privilege.
Mm. Wow.
Man,
Yeah.
That's my
that's
thought.
so tough.
That's my
That's so
thought.
That's so tough that you say that because it's almost like saying, I know they can be something, but I don't know if they're gonna put enough effort in to be anything.
Yeah.
So you know what I'm gonna do?
hmm
I'm gonna kind of push it along a little bit.
Mm.
And don't get me wrong, I think the other side of this is exactly very much organic. And that is, I know my child is talented. I know that this child can do these things. They've proven it to me. I've worked with this child.
Mm.
So I understand that they have the talent and skill because I'm not just being their dad. I'm being someone that they want me to be. And that is, to your point, Chris, feedback.
Mm.
I'm their feedback loop. I'm the one that's really going to tell them they suck. You know what I'm saying? And in some ways, I think LeBron would be the type of guy to not really say suck, but he would be the type of guy to be like,
Mm.
I don't know about this. Let's work on it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. For sure. For sure. Yeah. No, I get that. Wow. Well, oh yeah, what were you gonna say, Jay?
Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead, Peter. Go ahead.
Yeah, just
I couldn't help but think about a couple more things, but go ahead. We'll get
yeah.
to it.
No, go, because I think because I may be taking us in a different direction. So go for it.
No, I guess I couldn't just help but think about the derogatory nature upon which the Stephen A. and LeBron conversation has gone.
Mm,
Mm-hmm.
You
mm,
know, and I can't help but think about, you know, the social media aspect, the ego aspect, the culture aspect. It's all these aspects going on at one time.
mhm.
And I can't help but think about, like, dang, why we got to go at each other in that way?
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
versus we talk about celebrating somebody, now it's become derogatory and it's turned into a lot of negative things
mhm.
that really aren't helping the culture at all. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
so I can't help but ask the question, like, at what point in time is it like, why does it have to end up being derogatory? You know, like, why can't we seem to celebrate people without it turning into something harmful? You know, be it friends or family. You know, I don't know if anybody got any thoughts on it, but that's a question that comes to mind when I'm thinking about this example that we're experiencing in the media.
what you think, Quest?
I think we have a hard time with our traumas. I think that I'm pretty sure people are going to look back at these and be like, he's talking about trauma a lot. But you can't not.
Mm, mm,
You can't not when someone says something to you, and they say, well, this was something repetitive,
mhm.
and they continue to do this and they continue to have an emotion from this. That's a trauma.
Yeah, yeah,
And
Yeah.
the emotion look like that, blah, 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 right? And I feel like having to always be of excellence,
mm,
is a thing in itself. Having to always be proud of yourself in some way
mm,
that makes it to where you can't stand next to another man and just be just as proud. I don't know what that's about, but
mm,
we see it all the time. And don't get me wrong, like I understand competition, I understand trash talking, you know what I'm saying?
mm,
But to your point, where now we have, and I'm talking about how I'm gonna beat you up, and I'm
mm.
talking about all this other stuff, and we was, 2-3 years back, we still
We
sitting
was
here,
homies.
homies, whatever like that.
Mm.
I get it, but that's when this shit starts seeming like it's made for TV.
Yeah.
You know
Man.
what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
and if it's not made for TV, and then it's not made for TV, then what you're doing is you're allowing other people to see something that the culture now has caught and made a frequency. So now that the culture has caught it and made it a frequency, you have people out here that are doing that just in general, not
yeah,
not made for TV,
Yeah.
in
yeah,
general.
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah,
In general.
Yeah.
We done seen some young kings in Chicago die
Mm.
just because we in the streets just talking about you ain't as good as me.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
yeah,
And
Wow.
yeah, that person was probably right. You probably weren't as good as them, but it ain't caused nobody to be out here dead.
Yeah.
yeah,
Right, which it
yeah.
shouldn't. It definitely shouldn't. I mean, you just think to me too, and I bring this back to our ages, being 40s, going into 50s. I'm already in my 50s, that kind of thing. With some distance between myself and some of these issues when I would have been a little bit younger, like looking at it now, so much of that's just coming from insecurity.
Yeah.
Now, the reasons behind the
Yeah.
insecurity, that's the other thing that would
Come
be more
on.
difficult to try to unpack. But it's just,
Yeah.
it's coming from this level of insecurity. Like, wow, look at what that person was able to achieve. I want to believe I can do the same. But there's this part of us that doesn't really know if we can. And it's when you don't think you can, but you see somebody else who can, that's when that envy starts to come in. Like, wow, they're
Yeah.
able to accomplish something in the world that I can't. So your first
Yeah.
impulse, if you're really insecure, is to try to tear them down at that point. Like, all right, there's got to
Yeah.
be something that allowed them to do that, that makes them different from me, not in a good way. So you try to
Yeah.
come up with these things like, oh, I could have made all that money too if I had only sold my soul to this or that. Yeah, like we do these kind of things with each
Yeah.
other. But I have
Yeah.
found that as I've gotten older and just much more comfortable with myself, like I have fewer impulses to look at somebody else's success as being more than just their success. Like they were able to achieve that. Bravo for you. Like this whole thing with LeBron and Stephen A, there's a separate question to this too, because it's not trying to say that everything that Stephen A has to say about LeBron is wrong. We haven't even gotten into
Correct.
what we think about who's right, who's wrong
Yes.
here.
Yeah.
But there
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
that part of why is it that we get to a point where any kind of critique is read by us as betrayal, especially when it's at the hands of another Black person? Like, why do we
Mhm.
see things that way?
Man, I can't help but think about this word that comes into mind is like compassion. If I think about how LeBron's upbringing comes into play, like moms was on crack, like broken home, like all these other variables that would have took most of us out off the rip. Like we wouldn't have even made it to the court,
Mm,
right?
mm,
And so much of how we become is based off of how we were raised and all these other things. Nobody talks about those things, right?
Mm.
So it's like, dude is great just to be on the court and be doing the things that he's doing. And now we want to like just nitpick because he doesn't compare to Kobe or Jordan in a certain way. Like to me, he's in his own lane of greatness.
Definitely, definitely,
Like, why
definitely.
can't everybody have their own lane? We don't have to. There's
mhm,
things that he can do that neither one Kobe can do. He ain't here to do no more. Rest
mhm,
in peace. And
Right.
Jordan doing his thing in other ways he don't want to do no more. So it's like, why can't we just celebrate that? It's like we gotta find the negative thing to make each other feel better
mhm,
because of you know what I mean. I think to your point, ego comes into play, insecurity comes into play, trauma comes into play. All these
mhm,
things come into play. Hell, I could think about in our black male friend groups how
mhm,
we,
mhm,
celebrate each other, but then we tear each other down too, or like this happens every day,
mhm, mhm.
and
Wild.
so I'm like,
It's wild.
Yeah.
we live in it. We just not celebrity at the celebrity status of doing it, but
Yeah.
we do it to each other every day.
Well,
But listen
remember.
to
Somebody may do that. Yeah, go ahead.
listen to what you just said. That's it. That's the part. The part is that on our level is humanistic. So it's a natural situation. All of us are intended in some ways to go through a situation
Mhm,
like this. But when it gets to the point of celebrity, right? Now we're thinking to ourselves, why do you have to go through a situation?
yeah.
Why do you have to?
Yeah.
So
Don't know.
when we start looking at it, we say this is this way because we are humans to their celebrity. We're putting them on a pedestal that they don't have to be because they are truly just the same as us.
Mm.
And therefore, I feel like we're making this kind of decision to allow for that to speak in a lot of ways for how we do things in our
Yeah.
normal, regular lives.
I think it's also too the derogatory nature is to level the playing field.
Mm.
Like
That's good.
if I'm operating at a higher frequency and I'm killing it in a lot of these ways, if I tear you down, now all of a sudden you can look at me now and we can have a conversation. I, and I
Yeah,
think
that's tough.
the mindset shift and how we need to be is like, I'm not even gonna let you pull me down, dog.
Mm.
Yeah,
You know, like
Yeah.
yeah,
somebody
Yeah.
could have looked at this and even he's getting critiqued on this. Like, why you even let Stephen A get to you, man?
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. For sure. Yeah. No,
yeah.
that's
Like now
real.
he's pulled you down to his level in a way where like y'all interacting at a very low frequency.
Mm. Mm. Yeah. Yeah. No, that's real.
So those are my thoughts
Frequency,
about how, yeah.
a
Yeah.
frequency that has us right now, like questioning, this whole scenario and situation. So I got a
Mm,
question, and my question is,
yeah.
why is it hard for some Black folks to fully celebrate Black excellence?
Mm.
Why is it so hard? Because
Man,
that's in some ways what we're talking about. So why is it so
I
hard?
well, first off, before we go into this word, because I got my own issues with the word, how do you how do you even define it, right? Because I feel like it's so much noise around the definition. Like you go on social media, all these cats living a fake reality that they selling to us that's black excellence.
Mm.
How you define it first off, and then we can talk about it some more. You give it to me however it feel for you.
So me, I think I define Black excellence as a situation where I myself achieve on the level in which I feel I want to in some ways contribute to our community and our culture.
Mm.
That's what I, in some ways, define Black excellence.
Mm.
Something that is repeatable for our culture
Mm.
and allows us to extend it in a way that is healthy, that is happy, and vibrant to the next person and not subjective to the next Black person. So that's how I
So
see it.
I got you. I got you. Okay, I feel that at its core. I guess the questions I have are, it ain't got no stank on it though. So like to me, that's the core. But then also it's gotta have the bling on it. It's gotta have a certain level of opulence and comeuppance and all these things. Because if not, at its core, you just a good human. You just a good
Wow.
black human,
Right. I see
Wow.
what you're saying. Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
That's
Yep.
heavy.
right?
Yeah, that's heavy.
That goes back to what I just said. You are a normal human being, and there's nothing wrong with being a
And there's
normal
not.
human being.
Love
It's
that.
just the
Yeah,
fact that we don't look at it like that. We
I
look
love
like you
that.
gotta be like this,
Huh.
Yeah,
and that may not be the truth.
that may
Wow.
not be the truth. It's somebody else's truth that you trying to live into. That's the piece that I get caught up on it in. Is like somebody else's definition can drive what I'm going towards. Like, well,
Mhm.
what if I never reach that level of opulence and all this stuff that you telling me I'm supposed to have? What if this is my black excellence? Just
Hmm.
because you don't look at it in that same way, does that mean now I'm suck? You
Right.
know?
Right. Yeah.
And so
That's a
I
big
just
deal.
I just I think that's why it gets a little bit gray at times, because to me, I think black excellence is something that's inside that comes out. Like versus what we see is external and on the inside is crap. Like
Mm.
it's like you wouldn't even want to hang with that person if you knew what was on the inside of their black excellence, it would not really be what you would want
Yeah.
to become. That's my thought.
Wow. Wow. Man, this is this takes me in a whole man, this starts to bring up things from way back when, like, because I think I'm somewhere in between, but leaning more toward what Quest is talking about. Because Jay, what you're talking about there is that was the way that someone or someone's decided Black excellence needed to look. And then that became the thing that so many people were striving to try to achieve. Whether or not that's
Yes.
what was meant
Yes.
for us didn't matter. Either we got to that level or we didn't. And if we didn't, we couldn't claim that we were excellently Black people, right?
Come on.
I think
Come
what
on.
Quest is talking, and I'm more on this side of it too. And again, especially as you get older, you start to mature through that. You start to
Yeah.
define that excellence for yourself. It's not what
Yes.
somebody else tells you it
Right.
needs to look like. It's you. When you look in the mirror at the end of the day, do you look and say, what I am doing is putting me on a path toward being excellent, or am I excellent? Or do you look and see yourself as being short of that? You are the person who gets to define what that excellence looks like. Too many of us, I think, are still so heavily rooted in what we learned that it's hard for us to come out of that. And either we strive to become that. And what I think is wild about it, so many of the folks I know who have achieved that level, you look and say, wow, the way they're living everything, that's Black excellence. It gets back to what one of you all were saying, like at the core, what I know about what some of those people are doing and who they are, like that's not necessarily something that I really want. I don't want to be what's behind that in order to have that. And I
Yeah.
think you can have it without
Right.
being that, but that's what they know. But there's an emptiness that comes with what we learned that about Black excellence was. Like it was tied to education and material things. Like that's if you can
Yes.
achieve those two things, and
Yeah.
you could say one or the other, I'm excellently Black, or I have them both, and I got the holy grail of Black excellence to me. That's what we were taught it was. And so people were trying to get that. We as Black folks were trying to get
Man.
educated. We as Black folks are trying to put ourselves in spaces where we can make some money, even if it meant we had to do twice the work to make half the pay. Like all of that was a part of it. And if we were able to finesse it and do that well and create a life for ourselves, that's what we would see as being an excellently Black person. As we've
Right.
gotten older, though, we look at that and say that, and this is a topic we were going to get into today, which is going to be hustle culture and the trap of it. We can get so into that we lose ourselves. So I think what we're talking
Hey.
about in being excellently Black is, what is it that I am meant to do? Like I want to help others to find their purpose, whatever that is. You find that purpose, you be that purpose. I don't get to tell you what that looks like for you. You get to define it for yourself. But I want people to be strong enough in themselves to pursue whatever their heart is calling them to do in that kind of way. So for me, Black
Yeah.
excellence is you being the fullest you can be, and being able to achieve and actualize that, and doing it while being Black, because it is different. It is different. There's
Amen.
there's there's
For sure.
pressure,
Amen.
there's stuff that comes with it, that if you are able to be your full self in spite of all of that, I can't argue with you, right? Like
Hey.
if you didn't
Yeah.
allow that kind of force that's on us to beat you down, you get my praise just for that in and of itself. And that may seem like a low bar, but it's not a low bar when you've been living for 40, 50 years with it. Like having that weight on
Amen.
you and knowing and it's not, and I'm not trying to
Yeah.
sit here and say that we carry a weight that's heavier than someone else's. No, that's not what I'm talking about. That gets into the same thing we were talking about. It's like, yeah, but you got struggle, but yeah,
Right.
your struggle ain't as much as mine. Why are we getting into the oppression Olympics like that? Like it doesn't need to be. But if you can
The
recognize what
oppression
someone
Olympics.
overcame to become the healthy human they are, that to me is enough to be excellently Black.
Mm,
Like it really
yeah.
is.
Yeah.
Black excellence is being able to go to work and get through the day with people you know don't even want you there.
Oof, man.
Man, let
Right?
me let me tell you, Black excellence is being able to get up, understand that you gotta pay these bills, and look at your kids and be like, but I got to do something here too. I gotta raise these kids
Yeah.
because if I don't,
Yeah.
this television gonna do it, and that might not be what I need to do.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, so many different
Yeah.
things that can be spawned and thrown around to really bring out an essence in Black excellence. But to your point, Jay, to your point, Chris, it definitely is a situation where it has to start with the work of you first.
Mhm.
To, it just does. It has to be there with you. I also understand that my excellence is not predicated off of what I see on television, off of what I see that has been given to me by my teachers, and others in this world. I don't have to. The American dream is not my black excellence.
Mm,
Wow.
American dream is not my black excellence. Being able to say that I like long walks on the beach. If I don't like that, I don't like that. That may not be my excellence.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Now, I'm not
right.
saying that because I do like walking on the beach. But what I'm simply saying is sometimes we are branding to the things that we hear and then we call it excellence. Oh, I got 24-inch rims, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
I graduated from Harvard. I graduated from Yale. Here's who I am. This is what I'm doing. It is
Yeah.
black. It is excellence in areas in which we are not in, that you or someone else can, get out there and do it, and do it with purpose. Do it with something that looks like excellence in some ways, not just for you, but for us too, right? Where I can sit back and
Yeah.
say, look at Jamie. He is the entrepreneur of the year,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
understand that you are just saying, I'm the entrepreneur of the year, and not saying, I'm the entrepreneur of the year,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can
Yeah.
still have that confidence without just trying to stick it to you. You know what I'm saying? I can
Yeah.
know that you the
Yeah.
man, or know that you the woman, or know that you the person without having to stick it to you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
I don't
guess
know.
I'm so with you, man. I guess another part of the Black excellence conversation that I get into is two pieces. One is, why do we have to label it,
Well, yeah,
right?
that too.
That's one piece that I'm like, okay, what's up with that? But then the other piece is probably even broader, and maybe this Black excellence is gonna end up being its own episode. So I don't want to take nothing away from it, but it's causing me to think different things, like Black excellence, the definition and what it means to me has evolved
Yeah.
over the course of my life. To your point, when I was in my 20s, it might have been, me having, rims on my whip and, a
Yeah.
couple $100 in my pocket, and I got a degree that's fresh out, and I'm just up here walking around with a new gig. I'm up here like feeling excellent, and I'm Black. And then as I start to get older, that thing starts to change,
Yeah.
right? And I think it means different things to different people. But to me, I definitely feel as though if it's not a holistic excellence, then is that really what you want to go after? You know?
Yeah. I agree. I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree.
Definitely.
I think that for the people that are watching us, they have to understand that you have options here, of just
Yeah.
understanding what your excellence is for you. At the same time, you know, I think we generally all understand excellence in its definition for what it means to us unified. And I think we can celebrate that as a community with not only the individuals, but the things that we see that are done for our community, right? We see all of the inventors that are inventing in our communities, and we see all of these people that are doing things not just for the community, but also for an outlet. Well, we ain't got this out here. Let me bring this here. Maybe it'll help somebody. We never had a dishwasher. What? I'm tired of washing these damn dishes. Let me make a dishwasher then. Boom. Whole community of people. That person is now Black, because it was Black, and they did
Yeah.
something like this. Now it's Black
That was
excellence, right?
excellent.
So yeah,
Yeah. Black people
right.
doing
So
excellent things. Yeah.
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 I'm with that. I'm with that. So I guess, as we talk about, I know we started with LeBron and Steven, and we talked about a couple different things, went a couple different directions. I guess I want to know, what's the one thing you want to share with everybody that grounds us in 4050? Like, what are your thoughts from this conversation that you want to reflect on and share with folks?
Wow, that's a tough question.
If you know who you are at this stage in the game, continue to be that person. You don't have to worry about what people are going to say about you and what you feel your legacy is. You don't have to worry about that. You don't have to rush to alarm because somebody is questioning your legacy. You don't. At the same time, you should be able to protect the things that you feel are valuable to you. So I feel like everyone should be able to understand that. Also, I say you have to understand what is reality as well. And don't think that in some ways, everything has to be celebrated. If I can put that on there like that, that is my takeaway in some ways from this.
Okay. Wow. All right. I think for me, and it gets to what I was saying just a little bit earlier, it's understanding that if you're on this journey and you're really trying to figure out who you are, as you're figuring out who you are, understand that that's what's going to set the standard for what excellence looks like for you, right? It doesn't have to be something that's defined by other people. Now, if you don't know another way, and if you're looking for something, of course you can go with something that somebody else defines for you. Maybe it evolves at some point and you want your own thing. Maybe it doesn't. Like, that's not my call. But if you do feel in some way that there's something out there for you that isn't met in terms of being called excellence, it isn't met by the different things you see out there that seem like they're the standards for it. I just want you to have the power. I want you to know that you have the power to create whatever your own standard is. But I would say along with it, and to bring it back to what we're talking about here with this whole situation with LeBron and Stephen A, it's getting to it's understanding how to build a team around yourself of people that you trust who can actually give you really good feedback. Because I
Yep.
think when we don't trust the person who's giving us the feedback, we see that feedback as negative criticism when maybe that's not necessarily what it is. So without that kind of relationship, it's hard to get feedback from people and know what to do with it. So if you find yourself especially being a little bit sensitive about feedback, build a team around you that you trust, that you know is giving you what you need to build toward whatever you deem your excellence to be. Because if you're not getting any feedback, it either means that you're perfect, which none of us are, or that you're falling short in some kind of way because no one knows how to say to you, if you just added this to what you do, you could be even better. Some of us block that out because of our own insecurities. So again, dealing with our insecurities in a way that we stand enough on our own to understand what's being shared with us is about helping us to be better at what it is that we came here to do. Build your team if you need to understand the folks you need around that you can trust.
Well, there you have it. Another epic episode of 4050 Social Club, and we hope that you enjoyed it as much as we did. Subscribe on YouTube, click that button below. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, all social media platforms. We are here to help Black men transition through the most impressionable years of your life, your 40s and 50s. Don't feel as though you're out here alone. We're here with you to share our stories and our journey. So let's get to it, y'all. We look forward to seeing you on the next episode. And until then, be well, friends. Peace.